Rob, you're helping men overcome fear. I was listening to the Darren Hardy. I've nearly finished the audiobook, and I'm listening to that this morning. And he maintains that actually there's no such thing as fear. It's how the mind interprets a situation. So, for instance, some people, like me, I'm frightened of heights. I really can't do with heights. My youngest son was a crane driver, so, he's been on the jib and, he has no fear of that. I don't mind spiders. In fact, there's a spider walking around in my kitchen at the moment, and I won't do anything with it except film it and send it to people that don't like spiders. I'm not frightened of spiders. Other people are. So it's the interpretation of fear. Is that right?
I don't know if it's right or wrong. I think my partner heard a quote which was, fear is the fear of having certain feelings.
Yeah.
So going, jumping off a 10-meter platform in a diving pool, you'd have certain feelings, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So that made a lot more sense to me, I think. Yeah.
No, I don't like heights. I know that. It's nothing to do with fear. I can assure you, when I joined the army and was shoved down a rope 250 foot, no, it wasn't much fun. I didn't like it. I was only 15. I should have loved it, really. But I think I got in the wrong girl guides group, really. The army wasn't for me, really. But never mind.
Yeah, I'd be frightened of playing a clarinet at a concert. So there you go.
No, that was easier than going down a rope, Paul. Trust me.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. It'd be interesting.
It'd be a good thing, though.
Yeah, keeps you alive.
Yeah. I mean, Darren was going on to explain the different types of, the different situations. I mean, some people are frightened of dogs. There's certain dogs I would back away from, whereas others, and horses, they say, have a sense of whether you're frightened or not. Man, you get next to a big horse and they're damn big.
Can I share something with you all?
I'm frightened of fertile women.
Yeah, sorry, yes.
I'll share an image with you all. That's okay.
Yeah.
Let's find it. Can you see that?
Yes.
There you go. It's a feelings wheel.
Oh, my God.
In the middle 7 things are emotions, which are things that you involuntarily feel. You feel it's your primitive brain. You can't help but feel these things when something happens. And then on the outer 2 circles are things which happen to you, feelings you have which are different from emotions because they occur through a process of filtration, and it's to do with experience and opinion and just who you are. So fear could be being scared, and scared can divide into helplessness and feeling frightened, and I'm sure helplessness and frightened can then divide into 2 more. So it's quite good to know the detail because the devil is definitely in it. Now you can look that up. If you look up feelings wheel as an image search, you'll find loads of different people produce those. This came from a guy called Jeff, what's his name? I forget now. Jeff Roberts, I think, from Australia, and I paid him a little fee to use it. But I think they're all the same. The number of emotions may change slightly because it's not really totally accepted that there's only 7. People say there are 5 or 11. So, but it's quite interesting, just to think, well, how do you actually feel? And you can be a little bit more accurate.
Wow. The red and pink side are all lyrics from Pink Floyd songs.
I was listening to them last night, actually.
Oh, which one?
I listened to the live, Great Gig in the Sky when they had Sam Brown singing.
Amazing. Wow, that is incredible, isn't it?
She's got her career singing wise is there's like a kind of pop side to it, and then she's got this absolute belter of a voice which can just fill Wembley.
Yeah, the hairs on your arms go up when she starts, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I saw Sam Brown at Wells Cathedral for a requiem.
Rob, do you agree that we should put ourselves into a situation where we feel fear, frequently? Do you think that? Yeah,
because if you think about it, you feel fear,
but create a situation where you're actually pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and you feel that fear. Right.
I think fear is a bit like eating a packet of extra strong mints and downing a pint of water. you're going to feel, yes, eating lots of mints and downing a pint
That's
of
just
water,
foolish.
you're going to feel something, but you'll get through it. So the downing of the mints, the eating the mints is like you know you're about to do something fearful. That the pint of water isn't a problem, but it's the obstacle between you and the pint of water. And that pack of mints is the same as the ledge which you have to lower yourself over when you abseil. Abseiling is largely not the problem; it's going over the edge for most people. So I think, test yourself and come back with some answers. Like, am I still alive? Yes. Well, fear, you can just take a back seat. I'll go a bit further. Am I still alive? Yes. I mean, there's a very complex process of working out a character for something like fear, which I do with my clients, but it's you then get to speak to fear.
Do you have to take the mints out of the packet first?
only if you're an amateur. Yeah.
Apparently, this same podcast was saying that they'd done some research and people going for the skydive, as the plane went higher, their heart rate went higher. But the minute they jumped out of the plane, the heart rate went down.
Yeah.
Point of no return. Yeah.
It's interesting.
Realization, isn't it?
Interestingly, welcome everybody. It's interesting that you should be talking about feelings because in today's session, which is all about lead generation secrets, and that's I say that because we've covered lead generation here on Marketing Crew on a number of occasions because it's absolutely key. You want business tomorrow, you've got to be generating leads today. If you want business in January, you should be looking to generate leads today, this week. And one of the comments I've got is, well, I'm going to ask you, what's the number one quality, the most effective sales and marketing presentation or sales and marketing messages? I'll repeat that. What is the number one quality of the most effective sales and marketing messages? Is it passion? Is it enthusiasm? Is it conviction? Is it urgency? Is it desire? What is it? What do we think?
Message that talks to a very targeted audience?
No. That's important, but that's not the answer I've got. Anybody else?
A solution of some kind?
I would have thought enthusiasm and passion.
No.
Consistency.
I think enthusiasm and conviction, all of these are great qualities.
Knowledge.
But the number one quality is empathy. You have to feel what your client feels. Not what they say, but what they're feeling is the hidden between the lines. You've got to search for those feelings that they have, their journey, their challenges, their aspirations. And I think empathy is really key. And I have to say, I think that was one of my secrets for doing business. I was genuinely interested. I had a feeling. I was trying to put myself in their position and feel what they feel. And if we think about it, and I know Anne-Marie's made an emotional video this week on LinkedIn. Good morning, Anne-Marie. We're about feelings. We make decisions on feelings. And I think that we've all come across people that are quite cold to us, or, there's no genuine authenticity. They don't feel as if there's a fit. So feelings, empathy is really key. So what I wanted to do, I'm very mindful of the fact that we get on these sessions and we have really some interesting sessions as they develop, and everybody really doesn't matter where the aha moment is coming from. People are contributing in an amazing way. But I'm also mindful of the fact that knowledge is one thing, developing awareness is another, but none of it is of any value unless we do. Unless, you can dream about what you want to do, or you can think about what you want to do, and you can plan what you want to do, and you can go on developing whatever skills that you have in here. But unless we actually do it, and we know what that fear of doing things, of stepping out of our comfort zone, then nothing's going to happen. And I think if we all think back, I don't know, if I think back to some of the great ideas are 10 a penny. people come across with ideas and they think they can go on to Dragon's Den, or they can get some backing or whatever. Ideas are not the issue. There's probably no original ideas anyway. It's the doing, it's the application, it's how is this process going to manifest itself. So with that in mind about lead generation, I just wanted to see how everybody's doing on lead generation. And you've moved to the top, I think you've moved to the top left-hand corner, Nick. You've been doing some really good business lately. You've been able to afford holidays and time away, which is remarkable. I think I admire anybody in business that's able to do that. What's your lead generation secret? What are you know, who are you reaching out to? Remind me what you want from your business, first of all.
Yeah, I mean, over the last, I suppose, 18 months, the business has kind of niched more into business storytelling and talking to SMEs and helping them tell their story. So the story behind the business, the story behind the brand. It could be an individual. So I mean, it could still be a business of one person, but increasingly it's becoming small businesses. So businesses of maybe 5 to 30 people. I'm not particularly targeting, one particular sector. So it doesn't have to. I'm not just talking to coaches or manufacturers. It's really targeted at any kind of business that wants to communicate a message around their people, where the people are a core part of the organization, and the people make a difference. And it could be that the people are hidden, the people aren't seen day to day. So it's helping them bring out stories around the hidden people in the business and actually showcasing those individuals and bringing them to life. That creates a connection, I think, and businesses definitely tap into that.
That's fascinating, that. Because if you were niching and saying you were going after food producers, that's a very, very easy market to spot. You can do some searches, etc. How do you, if you're looking for people, and I guess that takes in more or less, well, no, I don't suppose it takes in everybody, but finding people who need to tell a story. How do you go about reaching out from a lead generation purpose for that? I mean, what's your strategy? What you're doing to do that?
I think to answer your first question, I think with time I may well niche that in further, because I recognise that is quite a broad audience, and I think it does need to kind of connect and engage. And if I look at some of the work that Rob talks about, Rob is very clearly niched into talking to men. So I think with time that will come. But I think I use a kind of variety of techniques. I'm kind of starting to really develop my LinkedIn communication. I went off the ball a bit with that, but I'm now much clearer as to how I'm going to move that further forwards. So I'm starting to reach out and engage with businesses and looking at second connections and starting to build relationships just on a very kind of gentle level over a period of time, and showing genuine interest in other businesses without any selling at all. So just connecting and exploring where they're at. Some businesses are very happy to respond to that, and others don't, but that's fine. I've been building connections through business magazines as well. There's quite a lot of targeted business magazines out there that publish articles, and that's a great way of finding out a bit about the business, but then also using the article as a way to build a connection with that organization and reach out and talk to somebody.
So from that, you may see somebody that's published an article, or an article's written about them that's revealed a story. And then you've reached out and spoken to them and said, I've reached out and talked to them about that particular article or that story, and actually used that article to kick off the conversation. So it's not a cold call. It is a cold call, but it's a call with, I guess, a starting point, and there's a degree of commonality there. There's something that we can both talk about. And I think people actually like the fact that you're taking note of work that they put out in the public domain. If you spent the time writing an article and someone actually refers to it, I think people quite enjoy that. It's showing some genuine interest in some work that they've actually created. And is that the same thing you do on LinkedIn? In other words, people that have written an article or a post?
Yeah, and generally I'm doing that through, so I'm kicking off the initial conversation through LinkedIn. Yeah.
So you've got a journalistic brain by the sound of it. I know if ever to meet Michael, our joint contact I've got with Marcus, He's a journalist by profession, and you're with him for any amount of time, and he's really good at asking questions and getting things out of people, you know.
Yeah. And I think if you can then get to that point where you can then start to have that conversation, and not everybody is ready, are they, to have that conversation at that point. And I think it's just taking a very kind of softly approach and just trying to be genuine. I think we've all heard lots of different LinkedIn. I know Marcus puts a lot of energy into his LinkedIn profile, and he's probably better placed than anybody in this group to talk about LinkedIn. But I think the one thing that we have learned is that if you show a genuine interest and you just talk to people on LinkedIn like you talk to people in a room, and just gradually build up that relationship, you will build up empathy and support, and a genuine interest in who you are, what you do.
So if somebody's in a magazine, they've got their contact details, or you can find them on their website, you pick the phone up, or do you send an email? And with LinkedIn, do you send a message first and then arrange?
I send a message first, yeah.
That's good.
And then it may, it might take a couple of conversations. Sometimes it doesn't go, sometimes there's no reply. Sometimes it can lead to a LinkedIn conversation, and sometimes that LinkedIn conversation can lead to a telephone conversation.
Yeah.
But it's a long burn as well, isn't it? I think if you can build that initial relationship and then get the conversation going, and then they can see your content, they may well, reach out to you at some point in 6 months, 9 months, 12 months when they're ready.
Well, you're going over a time span there, which is good,
Yeah.
Because timing is everything. But how do you keep a track of that? Do you have LinkedIn Navigator, or do you put it in a separate file?
I've got a separate file, but if the conversation moves on to something which I think is like a genuine conversation, and it could be a genuine lead, i.e. there's some real interest in the topic around, they're talking about wanting to maybe do some photography at some point, but they're not quite ready. I move them into my CRM, and then I categorize them by whether I think they're a warm lead, a kind of medium lead, or a hot lead. So I can segment them within my CRM, and over time I can go back in maybe 2 months and just touch base, and I can adapt the style of conversation depending on whether I think they're a cold, warm, or hot lead. Yeah. Obviously, that's my opinion. I don't know whether they're cold, warm, or hot.
It just sounds very effective, Nick, and very focused. Two areas. And I suppose if you were wanting to develop your food side, and I know that is not, we've revealed that you've got a background in that, but
yeah,
I suppose I'm thinking about local food, food magazines could be really good. It's interesting. What about you? Thank you for that, Nick. What about you, Andy? Because you're very active on LinkedIn, and you are the superb storyteller. How are you generating leads? What are you doing?
Video on and cry. No, I'm kidding. I must say I had mixed emotions about posting that video yesterday. So that's an aside. To be perfectly honest, most of my business at the moment is coming from referrals.
Right.
So I think it was Friday, I had 3 referrals in one day, which was quite humbling, actually. So I had another one yesterday. So I'm not actually at the moment actively generating leads, because at the moment I'm in the really fortunate position that my network are doing it for me.
Can I just stop you there? You are actively generating leads. Otherwise, you're saying that your referral strategy is just sit and hope. And unfortunately, most people in networking, that's what they do. They think doing a good job of being a nice person, or crying on, being near to tears, as I was on LinkedIn, is going to do it. No, you're doing things. I want to backtrack on what you're doing. So you're getting referrals. How good are those referrals? Are they leads or are they referrals? Do the people expect you to call? That's the difference.
Yeah, so they are. So every single one of those, I think probably the last couple of weeks, I've had about 5 or 6 referrals, and every single one of those has turned into a meeting. And I would say probably 50, 60, 70% of those will eventually go ahead. Maybe all of them, it's just over the course of time. So yeah, the leads are, at the moment, they're really strong leads, and they are valuable leads. My latest, not my latest lead, but I've told you all about my 80-year-old lady, if I haven't But
Yeah.
I've now got an 85-year-old lady.
Oh, she's bringing her mates in.
She's bringing her friends in. So she phones me. She phoned me last week, and bless her, obviously they don't talk to a lot of people, so she wanted to talk, which is great. But she said the only thing is, she said, this has got to be a winter project. She said, because I don't think I'm going to be alive in the spring.
Goodness me, right.
It's just like, okay, no pressure then. Yeah, so that's the madness that I live in.
Okay.
So this is what's happening, yeah.
So that's your main source of lead generation?
At the moment, yeah. But I network. So I've got, I go to Business Focus on a Thursday and BNI on a Friday. And I've had 2 leads from BNI, I think, as well. So yeah, so I guess I am.
Yes, you are. You are. Otherwise, you're going networking just to turn up and have a chat. You actually, whether you're doing it on purpose or not, and I imagine you're doing it on purpose because BNI would have given you some training that you are actively going out and you're saying the right things and you're maybe telling the story about, the sort of clients that you want, etc. So I wouldn't. And for everybody else that I've not covered, the difference between a lead and a referral, as far as I'm concerned, and I'll say a qualified referral, a qualified introduction, is that it's an actual introduction. Somebody gives you a card and says, give that guy a ring or give that woman a ring, she'll be very good for you. It's a lead and you've got all the work to do. Whereas a qualified introduction is the other person has done some work. They've actually mentioned you. They've talked about, they've bigged you up. They've to a point where they're looking forward to meeting you with anticipation.
Yes, so the lead, that was exactly that. The lead I got yesterday was exactly that. It was, so he messaged me and he said, I've been chatting about his work with you, he highly recommends you. I've been working on a book for a while. It's difficult pushing it on, would love to connect and have a chat. And he's booked in. So that I would say is a solid referral.
So in fact, he'd mentioned it to you and that guy reached out to you.
Yeah.
Right. That can happen. There's not as many of those will happen as we would like. And while we're on that subject, the person that's got that introduction could have may very well have recommended you to 3 or 4 people, but you've ended up with 1. And if that person had said to the 3 or 4, I've worked with Anne-Marie, she's absolutely brilliant. I think she'd be perfect for you. I think you'd love her personality, etc. She really would tease your story out. And then you say, would you have any objection if I got her to give you a call? Would you have any objection their magic sentence that, would you have any objection if I got them to give you a call? And people by default err towards no. I wouldn't have any objection. I learned that a long time ago in BNI, and I've found that I've used it so many, I default to it. It really is quite powerful. You end up getting referrals for other people a lot easier if people can do that. Otherwise, you're saying all that business about, she's good, etc., give her a call. And you then, and I know Rod and I have had that, where you say, how did you go on with that introduction? Oh, I've not received a call, and it's lost. So that's just a subtle bit. So do you know what you do? Do you have a mindset when you're networking? Because that is your lead. Yeah. That is your lead generation strategy.
So I do. I normally have an idea of what I'm going to talk about when I get my one-to-ones or whatever. The last 2 weeks, I've won the Oscar at BNI for my presentation, which is a little bit embarrassing. So I've got to be really bad this week. But last week I was talking about my Save Santa Stress campaign. And this is where because I've done some vouchers that are now on my website, and it's like, buy a voucher because then Santa hasn't got to get stressed about what to buy. See? So it's a Save Santa Stress campaign. And I was just telling everyone about Santa and his elves and pulling his hair out and getting all sad. And yeah, I won the Oscar for that. So it's just stuff like that. So it's just thinking about, I did a generation game conveyor belt one day, complete with a cuddly toy at the end of it. It's just sort of like, I just try to think of something a bit different But my goal at the moment between now and end of the year, well, now and Christmas, is to sell some vouchers, because I haven't got capacity to take on any more clients. But vouchers is great because, you know, they'll sort of come on sort of through next year, hopefully.
That's really very impressive, very impressive. So you're mixing stories with humor and but with purpose. That is really key, because there's nothing worse than going to an event, doing your presentation or whatever, and then what was the purpose of all that? At least it was. At least you're not promoting Tesco at the moment. They're getting some real kickback. But sorry, Anne-Marie.
No, I was just going to say, all I've done is, you know, I've done a lot of networking, and all I've done is listen to what other people have said and thought about the ones I've switched off on, and thought, I don't want people to switch off, because then what's the point, especially if I'm paying to be there. So I've tried to not switch off, or try to do something so that people don't switch off.
All the more reason, if lead generation, if networking is your lead generation strategy, you do need to prepare for it. And it sounds as if you really do prepare for it, so you know in advance exactly how it's going to run. And because you've got to know the majority of people at networking events do not prepare. Absolute fact, they do not prepare. I don't know what percentage, but they do not prepare. So what are they doing during the call? They're thinking, is it me next? Goodness me, I hope it isn't. What the hell am I going to say? And they're thinking about what they're going to say rather than listening to what somebody else is saying. You've got it prepared, so you're able to actively listen, which means you're a more valuable part of that group. Thanks for that. Thanks for that, Anne-Marie. Marcus, star of Arena Home, you're, as Nick has said, very active on LinkedIn, but that isn't necessarily your lead generation. I mean, what is your lead generation strategy?
Oh, gosh. A smorgasbord of things, I think, probably. I don't know. Yeah, LinkedIn for that cluster effect, and then fine-tuning it down to one-to-ones. And I am noticing I am getting more and more, what does that work when you work with somebody before and they come back to you again? What's it called?
Repeat business.
Thank you. Repeat business. I'm getting more and more repeat business. Yeah, but
Mug. That's what they're called, Marcus. Mugs. They're mugs.
Mugs. Oh dear. Oh dear. Thank you. But I something I might say. I think with, and Nick, I'm sure will agree with me on this, and Rebecca, with photography, the great thing about it is just by getting it out there, it works for you, doesn't it? Because it's selling your product. If somebody else, do a photo shoot for somebody and they post it and they put your name on it, immediately you've got somebody else giving you a testimonial. So that's quite a nice thing I've noticed about photography. So I think it's really important just to get work out there all the time, you know, on any platform.
Well, you've got attention, haven't you? And especially with a dramatic shot, you've got attention. But attention is one thing, actually converting that into business is another, because who have you got the attention of? Who was the attention meant for? Is it meant for anybody and everybody? I do a fair bit of that, so I know what that means. Thanks for that, Marcus.
Well, I haven't finished yet.
So, all right, beg your pardon.
No. I was going to tell you what I was going to talk about, because obviously, typical me, I'm never happy at the moment. I've got to think about what's coming next. And what I am focusing on now is trying to get into, which is very difficult for me anyhow, to get into advertising and creative agencies. So I'm really putting together a focused campaign on attracting those companies, which is quite difficult. So I'm, and that's a real slow build for me. It's going to have to be really slow, maybe over the next 1 or 2 years. And I'm doing that with LinkedIn, just connecting with people. So they'll drip feed in my posts, and then putting a body of work together, which I'm going to then go around and show to specific advertising agencies that work with that in that same body of work, if that makes sense.
Why does it need to take 2 or 3 years?
Well, I don't know, 1 or 2 years. Why
does it need to take 1 or 2 years?
Well, because I've got to get good enough, first of all, and have the right work and have an idea. which I have got an idea, which is my men's older men, working with older men, and I'm going to pitch that as a book to advertising agencies who work with older people.
All right.
Yeah, God, that's just silence the room, isn't it? Oh dear. All right.
What,
maybe that's a good idea.
You know what you've seen a niche, and what you know, and that's a good niche. That's, you know, this, we know 2 or 3 people are focused in that area. Yep. That's a good niche. What about the agencies? What do they want? Why would they want to talk to you? Given that an advertising agency's got access to so many different photographers of different talents, why would they want to talk to you?
Because I'm old myself. I know the market.
You're not that old, Marcus.
You're a youngster compared to me.
Well, I don't know. It's a plan. Have you seen the latest Saga advert?
I don't take the magazine.
No, not the magazine. The video on the TV. It really is quite excellent, and I really thought, God, I would love to shoot a campaign like that. So that's my latest sort of little whiz.
Marcus, seeing some of the poses that you get yourself in when you're actually taking your photographs, I'd say you're some sort of like yoga expert. I want to see you just kind of do like some Jean-Claude Van Damme splits as you're holding your SLR and just clicking away, and you're as old as you feel, mate.
Thank you. I think if you've done what he's talking about, I put a post up yesterday with me in some very weird positions that I get up to when I'm photographing my clients.
They're really good, actually. In fact, I think I'm always fascinated. You know, when you see a typical picture of some starlet walking into, I don't know, whatever, a posh restaurant. One of the best pictures, I think, is when you get a picture of the paparazzi, and you just see so much going on, and then we see you know, the person who's created a picture actually in the picture. I think that's fantastic.
Yes, yeah, that's good.
There's certainly you know, that's really interesting. That I recall my eldest son actually worked on the Dove account when they launched for you know, Dove was for, they photographed lots of older people of all different women of all different shapes and sizes. So I'm interested to try and engineer a conversation with Tim.
That's right, Paul. I need to talk to you about
that. Mainly because, you see, I think the creativity, you're creative, but I think the creativity for an ad agency comes from the creatives. Yes. And so therefore, you know, that's why I asked the question, what is it the advertising agency might be looking for? But thanks for that. I'm going to, you know, mull over that one.
I guess the overall answer is I don't know.
Right. Well, that's fine. That's fine. That's anybody here. And I suspect Rebecca might have the answer because she put her hand up first. Then I'm going to go to Martin.
Yeah, it was just when you were mentioning about older generations, because that's going to become an even bigger topic as more and more people get into that autumn of their life. But I was thinking, like, what about places on the Downs? There's that big sort of not retirement home, sheltered accommodation type places. Monica, does anyone know? No. I'll try and remember the name, but places that are basically there, it's like sheltered housing. So if you could make that look fun and good, then I mean, maybe that's not really what you're after. But if you had something like that, a project like that under your arm, and then you went to somewhere like Saga or something else, they'll see what you do. They'll see what you can do for the older generations.
I think that's a good point, Rebecca. But aren't we looking at what we've got, trying to shoehorn it into what's there, rather than what we've discussed previously? Who are the people we want to deal with, i.e., agency, and what problems and issues do they have? What are the challenges they have when it comes to reaching an older market, and where
advertising agents
fit in? Sorry.
But on advertising agencies just representing companies.
Yeah.
Yeah. So which companies are they representing that would be your target market? I mean, because they're not sort of just coming up with ideas for no reason. They're employed by a company to advertise that company. So who are the sort of companies that would, I mean, they've got to be pretty big to be going to an advertising agency or creative agency.
Yeah.
So I was just trying to think, if you dealt with an in-house one, maybe at a smaller one, and then you worked up.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
If you're thinking of your portfolio, you need those, like, I can work with a national brand or a local brand, and then you can go to a national brand or something.
Exactly. Yes, that is the
So
plan.
Marcus is probably thinking about the agency and thinking, coming with an idea or whatever. Is that right?
Well, I think when you're approaching an agency, you've got to try and make them remember you. And if you show them a wide range of stuff, they won't remember you. But if you show them a very specific amount of work and it's personal work and you're really attached to it, that is the way that agencies remember you.
And if you've got a tagline like I make age look good, something, I don't know.
I'll make a note of that one. Thanks for
and you do. I mean, not that you're old, but
there we go.
Rebecca, stick to architectural photography. Copywriting is not for you.
But you need some kind of tag to explain all that idea that you want to make.
Anyhow, let's hear about some other people, because it's all been about us. This is some.
Yeah, sorry.
All right, Martin, you had a point.
Sorry. Yeah, no, I just wondered, sometimes I go to this West of England Design Forum. They have like events they used to at the Arnold Feeney. I'm sure they'll run again. And they have all the sort of top design people. And there's always drinks before the talk and there's drinks afterwards. And you get all the, these big like Taxi Studios and Fiasco and these, the biggest sort of design studios in Bristol. There's always, and they look like the partners are there, or, the top guys. It's not just the juniors. So also Bristol Creative Industries.
We're both members of that, aren't we? Yes.
But I mean, they have where you can offer them workshops. Also, West of England Design Forum, they run a series. You can, for 10 quid, you can get a workshop for, I did like one on copywriting or animation or whatever. You could say, well, I can do you a workshop. So they run it down in the some studio around in the centre, and they're really good.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Maybe both of you go together and you do one half the room, Marcus.
Yeah, well, I'll let Marcus do this schmoozing. I can be his wingman.
Well, I was going to say you do one half of the room, Martin, telling people how good Marcus is, and he does.
yeah.
No, that's a good call. Thank you. Exactly. Yes, exactly right. Perfect. Thank you.
But
and also the British, the creative industries, Bristol Creative, they do like a networking event online, and that's, I haven't been to that yet, but I'm going to go to it today.
Am I right in saying that unless you've got a particular style, like Banksy has a style, that your business at those events is going to be about the relationships you form and that you have? It's going to be about, let's face it, that's part of the challenge you've got in advertising agencies. People move around. It's been traditional for people to move around in their career. And so they know people they've worked with, etc. So it's about relationships as much as anything else. It's part of that. Am I right?
Yeah.
So, who else would like to cover before I choose somebody? Nathan's got a blank screen there, and I know that he's been saying some nice things about this session and about some of the...
Hello, I'm here. I'm just running around.
And you hopefully picked up on a £5,000 contract because I was on your shoulder, or this session was on your shoulder. So So you're beginning to pick up some pace when it comes to lead generation. What is it you're doing, Nathan?
I felt like in the last few months I've been getting in front of people a lot more, maybe the last year or so, and then definitely in the last 2 or 3 months I've been having chats and they've been turning into jobs. And I think it's like putting a lot more importance on that kind of, whatever we're going to call it, discovery call, you know, what do you want call, and actually turning that into like, okay, this is what we can do, this is how we can go ahead. I think something you said a few weeks ago, Paul, about, you know, collecting a decision when you're on that call, that's been really helpful. And I've also been working with Martin Baines. I think some of you might know, he's a sales trainer, and getting a few kind of little tips from him. So like this and his stuff have kind of complemented each other quite well. So yeah, I think for me it's a confidence thing, because I come from a very technical background. I never had to really sell what I did. But I just feel I've just got better at that with sort of practice and refinement, and you know, I'm just having a better hit rate at the moment. Most of the jobs are referrals at the moment, weirdly from BNI 2 years ago. People are kind of coming back around now, which is good. And I also feel like with my industry and possibly with photography as well, we're kind of a few months behind everyone else, because as far as I'm concerned, I've only been trading for 9 months this year, because the first 3 months were just a complete write-off. So yeah, it's a strange time, but encouraged, I think.
So you mentioned that you had this £5,000 potential contract. You've not got any news on that yet?
Now I'm going to send over deposit today, like we left with a handshake and saying, right, I'll send you the terms, which I've done. He had a couple of little questions, but nothing that would derail it. So yeah, pretty happy with that.
Okay, so you're following up on that.
Yeah.
What does your week look like in terms of lead generation? Where are you going? What you're doing?
So I'm actually not going to BNI tomorrow, but I've got a call after this with a law firm who wants some stuff, and that's another kind of collecting a decision call. I've got a networking event on Friday, and I think I've got a couple of other calls in as well, just about kind of collecting decisions. So
what about new leads? What about new leads?
New leads. I'm kind of actively not looking at the moment, because I'm kind of at capacity, which is a dangerous place to be sometimes. But I've brought in a couple of editors to help with stuff if I do get, you know, completely overwhelmed. So yeah.
I'm actually that for that purpose, because the challenge is, especially when all of us on here are handling things ourselves, unless we've got freelancers to work, we think, oh God, I can't, you know, you have some successful burst and then you think, oh, I really don't want too much more coming in. And what tends to happen is, it happens to all solo traders, is that the business comes in, you then engage with that business, you stop doing the things that brought that business in. So when that ends, you've got that gap where you've got to build up your own momentum again. It's a little bit like me and the drone. I hadn't flown the drone for about a month, and Rod, I ended up doing a woodland burial. He asked me, he said, oh, it's only a few miles away. It took me all day to get there and back and edit and what have you. So it wasn't a profitable thing. Actually, it was not profitable at all, because I'd already been paid for in the church. But I was really pleased with it. And I thought I really need to get into practice a bit more, because I'd been about 6 weeks without using it. So I did a fly the other day on Sunday rather, really just putting it through its paces. And I thought I'll do a bit more intricate work. And I forgot the tree and I crashed the drone, you know. Ooh. So that's the challenge. You know, you get out of the habit of doing what you do it, what, you know, how right now you're on a roll. And there's a few people on this call are on a roll, because they're putting the work in and it's coming back, and they've got that positivity and that posture, etc. But the challenge is, what do you do? You know, do you stop doing that, or is there another way you should do that? I don't know. I don't know. That could be a challenge that might be need addressing. Anybody else might have some ideas on that. Ollie, what about yourself? Thanks for that, Nathan. What about you, Ollie?
Yeah, I was going to say, along with Nathan said, I think like work begets work. So I think like with Anne-Marie as well, we're doing good work and putting it out there, and then it naturally kind of comes back through referrals and recommendations and things like that. I think that's kind of does tend to happen with that. In terms of myself, I don't tend to do a huge amount actually at the moment in terms of lead generation or working on actively getting them. I kind of I've just been quite passive and fortunate that some have just kind of come to me recently, sort of people that I've worked with before that have recommended me or completely new referrals. So yeah, I haven't actively, well, that being said, I do use Instagram probably more than I do LinkedIn for lead generation possibly and engaging with my audience, I think.
All right.
Yeah.
Rod, I know we know where you generate a lot of leads from, but what's your approach to lead generation? Thank you, Ollie.
I live my business, Paul. I am my business. I live my business. It doesn't matter where I go, what I do. My business comes first. I mean, my girlfriend told me this weekend, the trouble is with you, you put business first. Sorry, that's the way we are, you know? So yeah, whether it's up on the market, engaging people and having a good laugh, but not, you know, trying to keep it sort of sensible, or whether it's just talking to people in general, it's being that go-to person. If you know someone, anybody know a funeral director? They've got to be thinking about me. It's as simple as that for me.
I think you had 8 funerals this month, is it? Something like that, or last month?
Last month was 8. This month's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's got quite busy, really, for me. I've never had a week where I've done 4 funerals, which I did last week.
Yeah.
One of them was over 2 days.
So if that's the result, the activity that you've done to create that has been the leads.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people now that I'm talking to do, you know, it would appear that they don't know a funeral director. So this is the important thing. If they already know a funeral director, they're not coming to me. So they don't know a funeral director. They look on Google, they look at the reviews, they then look at my website. There's probably a 5 or 6 point challenge for us all that people out there are doing all the time to make sure they don't make the wrong choice.
It's interesting you should say that. I mean, how many people here, just a show of hands, actually know a funeral director by name or have spoken to any? Nobody. Isn't that interesting?
It was funny, Paul. Yesterday, I had a meeting at the crematorium with a client, if you like, and the widow had never been to the crematorium before, and so I invited her to come to the crematorium. So it was familiar space as opposed to somewhere unfamiliar. And anyway, we spent half an hour, 3/4 of an hour, and she said to the guy there, you know, the guy that was showing us the chapel, how many funeral directors show their clients round? He said, it's only Rod. So I don't know if I'm an irritation, but you know, I think it's important that people feel relaxed when they get to someone like that, because it's a big day, isn't it, for them? It's horrendous, you know, and we're trying to convert that day from a funeral to a celebration of someone's life.
So you've suddenly got those business, and I know there's been some days when you've texted me and said I've got another call or whatever, so I tend to know when they're all coming in, but they didn't come in. They manifested itself at that stage, but back along somewhere, people have become aware of you. So I know you do advertising in the various, and by the way, it's not as if there isn't much competition for Rod. There's probably less funeral directors in the area than there are photographers. I don't know. but there's about 11 that advertise locally, don't they?
Yeah.
So you're in competition there, and they're all getting business. But it's what Rod has been doing to generate those inquiries or that interest. So it's being exposed and available on the marketplace, engaging with people, having conversations. But if you had a conversation, you feel as if you're like friends with the funeral director, they're the first person you're going to call. If people see your reviews on Google, that'll be one thing that might make an inquiry. But then I think still that content is valuable. And how do you get people to know you if they've not met you? Well, I know you've used video in the past as well, and that can be quite interesting way of doing things.
Well, in fact, the lady yesterday said to me, I watched one of your videos and felt that you would empathize with my issues, my problem, you know, with the death and all the rest of it. So yeah, it comes home quite nicely, really.
Paul, can I just say, I think what Rod does is quite disruptive. Most funeral directors are hidden behind curtains, and you only go there when someone in your family has died, whereas Rod is visible. So he's completely different to every other funeral director, and that's very clever, I think. What Rod does. He's disrupted the market and done it in a completely different way.
Absolutely. So maybe we should all think about how we can disrupt our market. And that's why I say to when Marcus said it could take 2 or 3 years, you've got to challenge that mindset, because if you believe it'll take 2 or 3 years, it will take 2 or 3 years. It could take 6 months. It could take less. If you think, right, I'm going to make this do this by the middle of June. This is what I want, and therefore backtrack. What do I need to get into place? What do I need to do? Maybe you need to be disruptive. Certainly that arena harm, when you see the photography there, it's disruptive, isn't it? I mean, the whole of that magazine is about stopping the page turn. How can you stop the page turn? Rob, you're developing your business. How are you generating your leads? What's your strategy?
At the moment, my strategy is just getting myself out there. So networking and joining your group, which I'm very much enjoying. I'm working with Phil Coley from iPlus Group. He's helping me on a few different fronts. And I suppose it's doing the things that that I wasn't doing before, because when I first started being a coach, it just came from word of mouth, and there's a kind of a tussle going on inside of me, because you don't have to have a website to be a coach. Like, you don't have to have a website to be lots of different things if you have that word of mouth. And I think the nature of coaching is it can be so intimate that like a lot of jobs, the best client is the one who's led to you by another client. So I'm stepping into the world of being more active outside of just face-to-face stuff, and that's been enforced because of COVID. But I think I do want to start going and getting my face literally out there, so people can ask me questions directly in a space. Because I think that's probably the most powerful thing I could do. Mm.
Yeah, most definitely. The more we can do that, the next best thing is video interviews. I would have thought that comes to mind anyway.
So I've done a few of those. In fact, Marcus has done an interview with me, but I'm the interviewer, and this is one of my kind of like side campaigns. I have a YouTube channel called the Coaching Channel, and I interview coaches, and I'm working with a couple of other coaches to develop a product to do with the Coaching Channel that we would sell to coaches. But one thing I do on there is I interview people of interest, and I'm interested in Marcus, so I interviewed him, and anyone who I interview, I produce a life purpose statement for live in the interview, which is a metaphor and an impact. So I give them the metaphor. I gave Marcus the metaphor for himself, and I said from my perspective the impact which he's having. And it's a really fun kind of process. And the good thing about that, as far as marketing, is I am featured in every interview. So people get to understand me just by watching somebody else. So I'm the common denominator in every interview. So that's one way that people get to experience me on video, as well as me making videos about particular topics.
And where do you that sounds? I think you have mentioned that before. You've got a channel on YouTube. How do you get those videos out to your target audience, or are the coaches your target audience?
Well, the coaches are the project is the coaches are the target audience, and I post and tag the coach in the interview, and we have somebody else tagging and sharing. I'm in a little bit of a dilemma because it's called the coaching channel, so it's not called Sherpa Bear Coaching. So when if I share it on LinkedIn, is it a little bit confusing? I don't know. Is it a bit of a dilution? It'd be good to get some feedback on that, actually.
I don't know what everybody else thinks. Anne-Marie? Sound.
Sorry, my mouse went everywhere. Sorry. I was going to say, could you not put, what did you say it's called, the coaching channel? Could you not put featuring Sherpa Bear coaching or something?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I could. I think. Yeah, I definitely could. Do you find sometimes when you're getting advice from different areas, it's trying to accommodate all the advice is obviously the zones of conflict. So it's difficult to sometimes know what to do.
Well, my opinion would be Rob Stewart.
Yeah.
Who also owns. Yeah, you've got a coaching channel, like a product, a project, and you also run Sherpa Bear Coaching. And there's a story behind that. But central to all of that and central to the interviews is Rob Stewart, in my view, because in 12 months' time, you may see another niche with another brand. And if you're known as Sherpa, if you've put the effort into Sherpa Bear, then that's lost. I think it's very easy for all of us, and I believe me, I've done this so many times. I know when I left the corporate environment, I set up something called Brand Performance, which was about the performance of brands, which I thought was quite clever. But really, I had to build the awareness of that, and yet everybody at a certain level in the industry knew me as Paul Clegg. And I think we've covered that in the past about who is the individual. We're not big companies, so there's nothing wrong with Rob Stewart, who's got a coaching channel, and he's got his own coaching business. The coaching channel is one name, and the business is another. That's what I would have thought. And just another string to your bow, but all focused on the same thing.
Okay. Yeah.
That's the thought. And that's the challenge of getting opinions from everybody. You've got to then decide yourself what resonates, what makes sense. How about you, Andy? You're in a competitive market with companies struggling to get microchips for their new cars and what have you. How are you generating leads?
Just look back over what I've had this week, and there are cyclic things with me. So either people that I've already done business with, so are coming up for either renewals or existing vehicles, or people that I quoted when I first started 4 years ago are now at the next cycle. And I'm finding that although I didn't necessarily win the business last time, they think enough of me that they've got in contact for the next one. So they're automatically thinking of me for the next vehicle.
Yeah.
Which I think is, as I think Marcus pointed out, I am a not so much now, but quite a prolific networker. I'm consistent. I'm seen in certain areas regularly, consistently with the same message. And slowly, I think it filters through. And the sheer fact that you are in that space all of the time means I am in consideration for people I don't even know of that have just appeared out of the blue, you know. But I need to work on, as Marcus put it when we had a chat a little while about, I need to own the bloody space. There is nobody else in this region that's really, you know, vocal in my industry. So as awkward as it may be, I think I do need to put my foot down and, you know, take the territory, shall we say, and put the flag on the top. Yeah.
I thought of you the other day. I got a quote from Jeffrey Gittimer, and he says,
I love Jeff. Yeah.
he delivers shock and awe to promote himself.
Yeah.
Shock and awe. And he says, I lose one out of 5 by being too aggressive.
Yeah.
I get the other 4. You're never going to get all, but he has a particular
one more.
way.
To be fair, sometimes it can be a natural filter, Paul. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I keep going back to Brad Burton in our business, because Brad is shock and awe. I can't do it with his language, but and he's quite aggressive as an individual. And you think, you know, you have your own values, but he's been very, very successful. You're not required for everybody to love you.
No.
In fact, between Trump and Biden, half the people in the country, in the US, can't stand Biden. By the way, before that, half the people in the US couldn't stand Trump. So, you know, you're going to have people that don't particularly.
You've got polarized people to make it known where they stand. Yeah.
And yet there's a tendency for us to be all things to all people. You know, we want to be liked, and we become vanilla if you're not careful. And that can be the challenge for any of us here, to become vanilla. Rod is not vanilla. He's not like, by that I mean he's not a typical funeral director. He is, when you see him in action. And I was talking to the vicar on Wednesday about that. You know, he's very. I said, of course, he's got a military background. I didn't say he was in the band, but you know, he has that stature. You know, I can sell people. But and that maybe is the challenge that Marcus is going to have about. You know, you can get out there and you can. It might not be a style to be shock and awe. It doesn't have to be. You don't have to go wearing dresses or anything like that. But you know, you're going to think, how are you going to stand out? You know, amongst all the others, and that's some of the challenges that we've all got. There's only one person I haven't asked, and that is Andrew. And he's been. I don't know whether he's having his breakfast behind that picture. Is he there?
Got my socks on.
Sorry?
I've got my socks on.
Oh, funny enough, I haven't. Andrew, what about you? What's your week looking like? What does your typical week look like when it comes to ongoing lead generation? Do you have the same challenges that Nathan has? You know, stop, start.
Yeah, a little bit. I think my issue really in the moment. So most of my work comes through referral. I do obviously this meeting, and I do another meeting in the week as well. Have the opportunity to pick up some other meetings as well, networking meetings. The issue I've got at the moment is that I've got too much on. I'm actually now talking to freelancers. So it's a case of I've got to be careful. I don't want to be too proactive at the moment until I get my capacity sorted out. And then I can really sort of put the hammer down again. But at the moment, you don't want to go and generate a load of business and then you can't actually service that business. So that's really where I'm at the moment, but that's sort of growing pains point where I need a freelancer in. So I'm talking to people at the moment.
Yeah. It sounds as if in the majority of cases, and we haven't asked Rebecca, so I've realised. We haven't asked you about your generation of leads.
yeah, I guess like other people, it's repeat business. Referrals, I've had a couple of recently. And I've sort of picked up on social media, on Instagram a bit more. I'm sort of trying to reawaken that because actually I think that attracts obviously a different interest, different group to LinkedIn. And actually off the back of a post I put up, a local business got in touch with me, which was nice. So I think that's worth doing.
I was going to say, how are you measuring that LinkedIn? How are you measuring Instagram? Is it by likes or is it by phone calls?
Not really by, yeah, I guess by likes and follows, but I'm not looking for hundreds. I mean, I'd be lucky if I got a handful because I'm not really pushing it. But I don't need hundreds of customers. So the fact that one it's a bookshop that's moved premises in North Street, so locally to me. So, and they've got in touch saying they need photos of their new shop, and that's perfect because I had just put a post that I'd taken with my phone of another shop that had opened up locally, just saying, great to see new business here. And they had included some toys for kids. So Meg was playing with them. So I just thought it's a nice, like, more personal, but work related and my target audience businesses. So, and then, yeah, a bookshop got in touch. So I think for me, that's proof enough that it's worthwhile posting on Instagram, basically.
Well, if you're with your phone as well, I mean, it's not as if you've got to set up all your lighting and
no, and that's what I figured. I can showcase my my jobs, my work that I do, but every other few posts do some snaps on my phone and call them phone snaps, and just something that catches my eye that's related, but it shows a bit more of my personality or my life.
Like street photography.
Yeah, which I enjoy doing anyway, and then that would give me a purpose to it. So
yeah.
Fun. And that's where LinkedIn, I think, feels a bit staid. I enjoyed being on it. I'm still on it, and I'll keep plugging at it. But Instagram is a bit looser and can be more fun, I think.
Instagram,
especially for a photographer.
Well, is there any reason why you can't post your street photography, your quirky fun bit on LinkedIn?
I think some of it.
I'm just asking.
Yeah, I did a while ago. I posted one that I'd taken. It was outside a job, outside a building, and I was waiting just for the light to be right and all that with my tripod. And I noticed these two guys, one just waltzing along, I think like eating a packet of crisps, but very leisurely, and another guy, business suit, like charging along. And so I just got a picture of them as they almost crossed. And that was so I put that on LinkedIn, because that was a nice, like, here I am about to take a picture for a job, but I noticed this happening. So yeah. I think some posts will be appropriate, but not all. I think they'd get too lost, and especially for the audience that I'm trying to attract on LinkedIn, only very specific ones.
On a technicality, did you have to ask permission for those two, or had they disappeared? Is that what you're going to ask?
No, you don't have to ask. No, it's free space.
Sorry?
It's free space. There's no, they're not in a private property.
All right, well, it's interesting because I parked in the Cathedral Green. I was going to the town hall to drop something off. And as I'm walking past the Bishop's Eye, which is like a trendy bistro, the marketplace was fairly deserted. It was fairly misty, but there was a guy there, and he almost had a candelabra. He had his bottle of wine. He had the food. He was quite engrossed. It was as if he was at a dinner party for one. And I had the video, and I sort of did that, and I thought, no, I can't go and post that. Anyway.
Yeah.
But is there any reason why you can't do that on LinkedIn? Because LinkedIn is changing slightly, and I know you can't get sort of trivial.
Yeah, I think some, but I think it's thinking who my audience or who I'm trying to attract on LinkedIn, And would they appreciate it? So some maybe, like some of the posts I would do, but I still think like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all of them have different personalities, like the actual platform. I don't think you can just push out the same thing on every single platform.
No.
So,
but yeah, it's interesting. You talked about this, and you're right. They do all have different personalities, different audiences.
yeah.
You have a different personality. Posting something like that would be, because architectural photography is quite cold, or it can be perceived as being quite cold.
And I think that's where thinking about disrupting, that's where I'd say I want to bring life and warmth into architectural photography. So it's about function, not just form.
Okay, so therefore that you might want to still select your quirky pictures or your candid photographs, but that could bring the life and warmth into you as the personality. You see, I don't think people are buying. I don't think people are. I don't know what everybody else would respond to this, but I don't think they're buying your ability to take a photograph at an angle with the right lighting. I don't think they know enough about that. The other looks appealing. They're buying you. And I think LinkedIn is about us as individuals. And why can't we be who we are? Otherwise, you're trying to think, well, I don't want to step out of the crowd. I don't want to appear too unusual or whatever. You can't be what you're not, but you can be who you are. Hey, that's good, isn't it? Do you like that?
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
I'll go back and use a quote for that. Ollie, you had a point.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know enough about the different platforms so much, but I think with Instagram, people tend to be a bit more receptive, I think, from people looking for potential work. I don't know whether it's because Instagram is used more, like in people's free time and outside of work, and LinkedIn is more kind of like formal in that kind of regard. But that might just be my kind of experience of it. But I seem to find that there's like people are more willing, like you sort of said there, Rebecca, with people who are just opening up a shop to kind of want to reach out and quickly ask about something. Whereas LinkedIn does seem to be a kind of a slower kind of building that relationship connection type thing with it.
Is that the opportunity we've all got, though, to really disrupt and to stand out? Because I read stats about the number of people that are on LinkedIn but don't ever engage with anything. Now, whether they're paying attention, of course, is another matter. For those that post content, you are one of the small percentage of people. For those that post videos and video to camera or whatever, that is even more rare. And therefore, the ability to stand out. It's not about trying to fit in. It's about trying to stand out in a crowded marketplace, not stand out and be something you're not. I think I've mentioned I crashed the drone. So I actually did a small video edit of it and added soundtrack. So it sounds as if I hit a brick wall when I hit this tree, because there's no sound on the drone. So I'll probably put that up. Yeah, I've recently put a few drone shots, and it's not my business, but if it's that personality behind the individual. I remember there was a guy called Thomas Power who had he used to work for Alan Sugar, and he had an early social media platform in the UK called Academy, and I met him at one of the meetings, and he had a business card, and on the back of the business card was 50 words, 50 separate, not 50 joined up words, 50 like keywords, separate words. Can still remember some of them. Italian food, ice cream, Chelsea. Now, it's 20 years since I met Thomas Power, but I know he's a Chelsea supporter, and I've not seen anywhere else, but I've suddenly pictured that card and what I picked up on that. I mean, mine could say Accrington Stanley, Manchester United, St Albans now, or, if we were to put 50 words up, and I thought of doing this, of just things that you're interested in, that you've experienced of, how fascinated would that be? And the reason I mention this is because you're looking for connections. You're looking for something that brings people together. LinkedIn brings people together. The real person. We buy off real people. So you can imagine a solicitor that is quite quirky. You can imagine an accountant that is quite crazy. Not to a point where he or she wouldn't take your accounts seriously. Rod is quite quirky and odd. I mean, he's got this little drone and he sent it into Teresa's room and she's there in bed with this bee zone flying around. It's quite funny. Now, maybe you wouldn't put that on his website, but nevertheless, people that know him, they do business with him because he's a bit quirky, you know, and he's human. Is that a good point?
Actually, yeah, just on that is that I think ages ago when we first started this, I remember we talked about like how to be your authentic self. And that's still, it's difficult to do, I think, to bring out all those bits of your personality. Like Marcus going to a creative agency, that's what they want to see. They want to see who is Marcus, like what can he bring to the table. So but trying to bring out all your good qualities and really make them shine is, yeah, that's the trick.
Maybe what we
do it well.
I think if this had come out earlier, I might have suggested doing some breakouts and let other people tell you what they see in you. It's quite surprising that how they see you.
I think that would be really valuable, actually.
Yeah, I've had it on my notes to do for some time.
Because we all get caught up in our own little perceptions of what we think we're putting out there. But actually to get a feel for what we are genuinely putting out there, I think would be really helpful.
I think also what other people mean to us that is quite important. I think at funerals, for instance, it's always amazing and it doesn't surprise me any longer, but they go to the wake afterwards and they talk about what that person meant to them, how they'd touched their lives. And I've always thought it strange that they never knew that before that funeral. In other words, they never actually had the courage to actually tell them what's, and men are particularly difficult on this one because they're not quick to reveal their emotions, or am I being a bit sexist there?
Well, you know what to do, have a pre-wake funeral.
Yeah.
Do the wake first.
Interestingly, this morning when I was listening to Darren Hardy, and he was saying that apparently, I don't know what his first name was, I think it was Alfonso Nobel, was famous as a gunpowder maker. He made explosives. And they announced his death before he died. Somebody had made a mistake, they got the wrong information, and he was able to read his obituary. And the headline was Doctor of Death. And he was horrified. And he decided he did not want to be known for that. And from there on in, he started to invest his fortunes and his reputation into the Nobel Peace Prize. And you have the Nobel Prize for literature, for science, for medicine, etc. I thought that was quite fascinating. You know, how we would want to be perceived or known, etc. So I think in being in your authentic self, I think you've got to be sensitive to certain things. But on the other hand, I think that having a session like that, as Anne-Marie's just confirmed, would be a good thing. One of the other things that maybe we need to address is this stop-start, this, you know, I've got a lot of business coming in, I need to handle that. And of course you do, but how on earth do I continue somehow to keep things coming in? And some businesses manage to do that. And therefore, builders, for instance, you go and try and find a builder and they'll say, I'd love to do the business, but it's going to be a 4-month wait time, or it's going to be 6 months or whatever. In other words, to have that waiting list. And when that was mentioned by Nathan, and you can't do this too early, but I've got a quote here that the solution to greater profits isn't more clients, it's more valuable clients. So there's another strategy that you can use. Maybe that's a time, you know, to think, if I'm getting such ready business at the prices I've got. It's a bit like me when I sell anything on eBay. My mindset is I only sell it once. So I'm not there to sell it as the cheapest price, and some things take, you know, I'm not, especially if you're not in a rush. So, you know, the value of the clients could be something we can look at. Right, I'm mindful of time, so I'd like to go around. I'm going to do it in reverse order and see what you've got from today, any aha moments or whatever. I'm going to start with Andrew.
Yeah, really interesting, actually. Very interested to hear people's strategies, people's struggles. Just really, yeah, really interesting, because, you know, as I've said before on here, you know, my business comes through word of mouth. I've had 2 referrals this week. So it's a case of what I want to do. I feel that I need to take control of it a bit more, rather than it just sort of, and it's lovely to have all these referrals, don't get me wrong, but I need to sort of back that up with something that's very focused, that I'm proactively doing, not just sat being reactive. So as I say, get my capacity sorted out, chatting with freelancers at the moment, and then certainly December is going to be my sort of regroup month, I think. I'm ready to start firing off, actually, and start moving towards my more proactive approach to getting business.
So you could have some business coming in that you're managing through freelancers, and others that you're spending more time, and that could be more fulfilling work, or it could be a more expensive, higher level.
Yeah, absolutely.
Different market. Yeah, good. Rebecca.
Yeah, really useful to think about lead generation and hear other people's methods. Yeah, I'm just going to keep going. I think I'm on the right track, so keep putting stuff out there, and yeah, see what
and we're all dying to see the real Rebecca. We like the Rebecca we see, but there could be something behind that. Eh?
Yeah, I think there is. Yeah, there's definitely more to come. So watch this space.
Anne-Marie.
Yeah, really interesting. I'm in exactly the same situation as Andrew, and I'm struggling to find someone to help me at the moment. And I did put a comment in the chats. If anyone knows anyone, please just give me a shout. So yeah, it's been nice to hear what other people are doing, exactly the same as Andrew said, and how people are managing it, and then trying to continue to maintain a presence and income, because exactly what you were saying, you don't want to have this kind of high where you've got all this business and then all of a sudden you've got nothing and you've got to build your reputation again. So for me, hearing what people are doing to keep that going has been really helpful.
Good, thank you. Martin.
Yeah, it's just good to hear what people are up to, and yeah, I'm doing a similar thing myself, so, and it's starting to work. So yeah, it's just nice to hear that you're doing the same thing and what other people are doing. So yeah, great session, thanks.
I think also what I've noticed from this is that, you know, it's almost people are saying, well, it's networking, and you don't take it as a lead generation strategy, and it is, especially if you're doing it on purpose. Ollie.
Yeah, really good. Yeah, made me think I need to be a bit more strategic with my kind of lead generation, and a bit more structured with it, kind of like for the future. I also had a very quick question about what, I mean, maybe you, Paul, or anyone else, what thoughts are on rewarding people who have been good referrals over the last year. Like I've had maybe 3 or 4 clients that have been really good at recommending me, and I was thinking of just like a voucher or something like that. I mean, is that a good kind of thing, appropriate?
I think when people get sorry,
save Santa stress voucher.
I think it's an excellent idea, Ollie. And it doesn't have to be massively expensive. It perhaps, if you know them well, you know what they'd appreciate. So if they're a Yeovil Town football fan, you might get tickets to go to a match. If they've got young kids, you might give them tickets to go to the festivities at Longleat or whatever. That it goes a little bit beyond just a voucher. But I know Rod has used vouchers. It's when the least expected, when you suddenly get it out of the blue. I think I mentioned getting some things from Kajabi, and I was quite blown away with the fact, I didn't expect anything. It's the unexpected. And I think having what I was going to go on to, and we'll perhaps cover this when we come to sales, who else knows your audience? Who else has got access? And that, you could have reward systems, you could have affiliates, you could have third-party people promoting you, a bit like having sales reps. In fact, at any networking event, particularly by, you've got sales reps on this screen now. You've got to train them and teach them how to sell you, how to spot the audience, what to say, etc. That can be quite key. So there's all things around that. But I think from rewarding people as a one-off thank you would be probably appreciated. Because funny enough, people won't necessarily, if you say, well, I'll tell you what, you recommend me, I'll give you £50. People can feel a bit strange about that.
Yeah.
Rod.
Yeah, funny you should say that. Because, when I'm stood on the market and people of a negative nature that don't really understand what I'm doing there say to me, well, you only speak to the people that you know. Every week it's the same people that you know. And I have to remind them, these people that I speak to on a regular basis are in fact my sales force. They are my team. They are people that come back to me and get enthused about what I do and how I do it. And in fact, even down to my bearers, I had a bearer, one of my bearers phoned me yesterday, his friend's dying. Can we have a chat about it? And I said, did I tell you about the scheme that I do for bearers? He said, no, I don't know anything about that. I said, well, what we do is we give you 20% off the funeral director's fees. So straight away, that's £200 he saved his friend. And he'll tell everybody in the world, he will.
Yeah.
That's Keith, by the way, Paul, the ex-mayor of Radstock and Bolton.
Oh, right, yeah.
Talking,
Yeah.
But
he was driving the hearse. I was in the back with the vicar. Coming back from Dorchester in a hearse. Andy.
Strange mix.
Yeah, pretty much like everybody else. I think we're all in that phase of just polishing our process of making it easy to do whilst we still get on with the daily work, and it's getting that balance. So yeah, a few things from today that I've written down that I'm just going to look at and possibly polish, not change anything radically, because I'm getting to the level of inquiries where I want to be again now. So it's just keeping it so those are ticking in at any given time, so I don't have to down tools to go and generate some inquiries. Yeah,
I think if you've got advertising running in the background, it runs in the background, and you're able to measure it, it's profitable, and that's absolutely perfect. If it's about reaching out, etc., maybe you've just got to say, right, Monday morning from 10 till 11, 1 hour a day, I'll reach out to so many people, period. I think, unfortunately, when we look at it, we think we've got to do a massive amount because we're thinking about what we've done over the last few months, and you don't. It's just a matter of just keeping that trickle, and especially if it's well targeted. Marcus.
First of all, thank you to Martin for the heads up on the west of England. I will look into that one. Thank you. And we started off with empathy and we finished with authenticity. So I'm going to think what those two words mean and how they're connected. I'm going to go away with empathy and authenticity.
I think you should run this. I think it's have you ever been a disc jockey? I mean, that's a nice segue, that. Rob, thank you.
Hi there. Having talked to you all, I think I've got some answers from myself, but also from you guys. I like the idea of the question, how can we disrupt the market in an unexpected way? And I'm going to try and combine that with the fact that I am the brand, and also not worry too much about the different areas where I'm putting myself, because I am the common denominator. So I'm going to get back into interviewing people of interest for the coaching channel as well, because I think it's a really fun thing to do. I think there's a business behind it as well, actually. So
Yeah.
but I need to go and do more of it to find out exactly what that is.
When we meet up, I want to explore that a bit further because, of course, I know different coaches, yeah, that could be quite interesting. And when somebody's recommended to you, are they recommended? If I said I want to recommend you to Sherpa coaching, you don't know the hell you're going to get. But if I'm going to introduce you to Rob Stewart, you know who you're going to get.
Yeah, sure.
Describe Rob Stewart. When you've got such a big business that you've got to double your prices and you can't handle that, then different kettle of fish. Nick.
Yeah, great session, and I think as everyone else has said, it's really interesting to hear everyone's different approaches to lead gen. But two things that stuck out for me, and I think as Rob said, is this element of kind of being disruptive. Lots of us here know kind of Nick Sladeck, and he kind of champions that approach of disruptive headlines and marketing that really kind of stops you in your tracks and makes you think. And I guess if you're going to do that, it's still going to be consistent with your brand, hasn't it? And that's the bit I've often struggled with, how far you can push being disruptive if it isn't your kind of natural brand positioning. But it's definitely an area I think that's worth exploring. I think if you're too safe, you're kind of forgotten and you're in the middle. So that's really interesting. And I also like the conversation we had around Marcus's point about where he wants to get to, and the kind of discussion around how long that journey should be, and setting the goal at the end and then working out how you're going to get there. And actually you could do it more quickly if you put in place 4 or 5 things that you're really going to push hard really quickly to deliver that goal more quickly. So yeah, really interesting conversations today.
One of the things I've been working on is actually looking at doing something on a more personal basis, like a 90-day accelerator. And the difference is that I would go into with an individual. I could probably only handle 4 or 5. And I don't know how it would pan out long term. I don't know what the challenges would be, but and that would be to really go into every aspect of somebody's business from a marketing point of view, from an audience, from the way we're engaging, and then have and be an accountability partner. In other words, we agree some things, and there's no doubt about it. Some people could almost do with somebody representing them, but also I think we all need accountability partners. Everybody does, because unless you can go, it's easy just to absorb and not do anything, and not do the right things. So that's something I'm working on at the moment, and I might announce soon. Well, I will announce soon, not might. And while we're on, and finally, show of hands. On a week Friday, I think, is Black Friday. It's where people spending money they haven't got on stuff they don't need. However, we're all meeting up, or some of us are meeting up to meet each other. So show of hands, who will be there? Right, just let me take a screenshot. Just keep your hands up.
I've got a funeral now, so I can't be there. Okay.
Right. So I've got a screen grab of that. Those that haven't got their hands up, I'll chase and I'll get you some figures.
I think we all had our hands up, actually.
Yeah, but I just, for my benefit, because I'm a visual person and a part-time photographer, I wanted a picture of you all with your hands on.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Great. Have a really good week, everybody. I hope it's good for you. And I'm basically going to do the thing when you fall off a mountain bike at a high speed, they encourage you to get up. So having crashed my drone, I'm going to go back up and fly. All right. See you soon.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks,
All
everyone.
right, thank you, Paul.
Have a great week.